What happens when you take a revolver, a rifle, and a carbine and put them together? You get this.
A Rough Rider Heritage Edition.
I really do like this revolver carbine. I really do. Brings me back. I always wanted a revolver, and since I'm in Canada, it doesn't really look like I can actually own one. So that is the closest one I can actually get in Canada. When I first got it, it worked fine. It just shot to the left a little
It is
bit,
very much in sync.
but everything else was going smoothly until things started to happen. And if you're curious and interested in and if you're interested and curious about firearms like I am, stay tuned. So this is a Rough Rider revolver carbine. Fabulous piece of machine. Honestly is. The stock is actually really nice. It's a little bit satin with a little sheen on it. A nice color. You know, and has a little tail here. So you would put one finger on the trigger and one there. And you put your hand behind that one, right? Because you're not supposed to put your hands or fingers near there. So your hands will only go up to here. It has an ejector. It's like a Colt 45, but it's in 22. And it is just glorious to shoot it. It is very satisfying to actually shoot this. It is. It's a single action, so you can't really pull the trigger every time and it'll go off. You actually have to cock the hammer every time to get a shot off, which doesn't bother me at all. It still worked fine. So those were all my pros. So let's go to the cons, from the best ones to the worst ones, which is sadly, this one doesn't work no more. So off the bat, the first con I have on this entire thing, and it's really just a nitpicky thing, is the paint on this is very chippy. You can see it's already chipping around. And I also noticed I forgot to take the cylinder out, just to prove to you that it is indeed not loaded and safe. Not that it can fire anyways. Let's go to the second problem I have with this. And it's just as bad as the paint chipping, but expected. The upper part here was actually starting to fall apart, which means that there's 4 screws here. 4 screws in total here. 2 there and 2 here, and then you have 1 up front here. Were all loose. There was actually a gap here. And I started to realize that my grouping was getting out of whack and not making sense until I saw sunlight through here. And I'm starting to see that newer types of firearm, you really do need to check those. But no damage was done to that. And just like that, I did tighten those bolts, and it worked flawlessly like it always did. And then the second con, I mean, it's just a picky thing on my opinion. It throws like flakes at your face. So if you put stingers on there that have a lot of powder, it'll throw flakes in your face. But if you're going for subsonics or anything like that, you'll usually be fine. But around 50 shots or 40 shots, you'll start to feel powder hit your face. So I do recommend wearing goggles for these. Alright, so the other con I have, which bothers me quite a bit, because if you get a new type of firearm, you shouldn't need to fix it. You shouldn't. It's brand new. If you buy a second-hand one, you might need to tweak it or fix it. That's a given. It's used. However, this one shot to the left. You remember I said that it shot to the left. The problem was the rear sight. As I was shooting downrange, I was like, okay, shot to the left, whatever. Just take a rubber mallet, or something like a piece of wood or wherever, and just tap the front of the sight. I'll show you here. I would remove the blade for tension, and then I would tap it. Just enough to make it slide. and it shot exactly at the same spot. So I literally almost pushed this sight off to try and make it shoot to the right, and it never did. It stayed to the left. So I was like, what's going on here? I'll tell you. Notice anything weird here? Remember, I have actually fixed this. Almost fell there. It was worse. It actually was worse than this. So you see how this is pointing almost on the outside of that oval, and you see where that is right there? That's the problem. And I actually fixed it, and it seemed to have shift too. A gunsmith has told me the way to fix that is to file here and maybe a little bit on that side. A little bit at a time to bring it back. And then you have to peen the other side to compensate for whatever you have taken. That is exactly what I did. And then I found it was still just a little bit loose. So I also tip-tapped on top there, inside there, and retightened it. And it actually did the job. And remember, that sight, as it is right now, it was worse. When you get a brand new gun and it shoots left, and you adjust it way far and it still shoots left, just to realize that your sight is crooked. It is very much in center. It turns out I actually did take a video before I managed to actually fix it. Oh. Man, in that shot you can actually see how far back the sight is on one side. It is so bad. Like, that, it was dead center when I got it. So that rear sight that you look at was directly in line with the front blade. And that pointy bit on the end was way off. So the sight was crooked. So I fixed it as best as I could. It took me like 20-30 minutes to do it. I was taking my time. And then I brought it to the range with this set buddy. And he looked at it, he's like, yeah, that's not bad. He could still go a little bit more. But he's like, wait a sec. Something ain't right. My sight, my front sight, not the front sight, my bad. The rear sight is not only factory crooked, but it's also offset to the right, which means that instead of being like that, it is also like this. That's not the end of it. And here we have the holy worst of them all. As I finally got it to close as I could and trusted it, me and my friends at the gun range, and there was a girl that didn't have a firearm license, but she was amongst a lot of people with firearm license. So I decided she should try this. This thing is fun. It's delightful. And no kick whatsoever. I mean it. It's loud, but it doesn't have a kick. So I was like, do you want to try this? It's different. It's actually really fun. And she's like, okay. So I explained to her about the safety and how the hammer worked. And everything was going smoothly. First shot, flawless, perfect. Second shot, worked fine. Third shot, nothing happened. In fact, the hammer didn't even move. So she was pulling the trigger, and she said, nothing's happening. I was like, okay, just pull it just a little bit harder, firmer. Nope, nothing. At that point, I had a hint in my head that told me that this was a leaf spring inside the hammer. So as I grabbed it back, I said, I guarantee you that the spring inside this gun has broken. So as the people gathered around me, I have took it apart, and very easily took it apart actually. I have part of my leaf spring. Just in case you want to see what it looks like, it is a rather thick piece of steel. A clean break and a barely worn pattern, which makes this gun unfireable. So let's sum this all up. Of the two worst, my back sight was messed brand new. And there's no return policy in Canada for this, as I've been told. It's a federal law, so I can't return it. The rear sight was crooked, new to the side. Not only to the side, but it was also shifted in such a way that even if I pushed it on the right to fix the left, it still shot exactly at the same spot. I don't know if that's just weird. Tight group though, really good group. I will give it that. The rifling in this is aggressive. And then the leaf broke. So I have spent $500 on a firearm that had only shot 150 rounds. And I've searched everywhere to see if this was actually something that happened. Yes. And then I heard something about fanning would actually damage it. What's fanning? So I actually searched it up, and that's when they do the stupid cowboy stuff that I don't even like doing. It was brand new. I saw no purpose of doing it, and it still broke. And indeed, like even my my buddy that's been gunsmithing for a while said that it seems like the spring has bad tempering in it. Maybe. So, by far, I have fixed it once due to bad machining, and now I have to fix the spring in it as well. And at that point, I'm not even sure if it's even worth fixing, if it's just gonna break the leaf again. What's the point? And just in case you're actually curious about the price on this spring, it's actually not bad. It's about $10 in my monies. Probably should be included, I don't know.
Heritage, you had something so good. Why?
Got a question for you. Do you feel lucky? Do you, punk? Oh, are you lucky?
You get this.